The Stoic blueprint for the unshakable mind, used by warriors and emperors. What would it take for you to remain unbroken in the face of chaos, betrayal, or devastating loss? Imagine being called to war at dawn, knowing the next hours may erase everything you hold dear. Picture yourself seated on a throne, burdened with the fate of millions, where a single decision could mean rebellion, collapse, or death. Or bring it closer. Consider the sudden phone call that shatters your world in an instant, the betrayal of someone you trusted most, or the uncertainty of a future you cannot control. What kind of mind could hold steady under such pressure? What fortress within could remain calm while the outside world falls into ruin? The answer is not found in empty inspiration or fleeting motivation. It lies in a discipline that has survived centuries, tested not in comfort but in suffering, not in theories but in the harshest realities of life. A philosophy lived by men who carried swords into battle and emperors who bore the crushing weight of empires. This is the Stoic blueprint, crafted in hardship, refined in power, and proven in storms of fate that would break ordinary minds. This blueprint is not abstract or reserved for scholars. It is practical, alive, and sharper than steel. Warriors relied on it to step into combat without fear. Emperors leaned on it to lead without being destroyed by ambition, flattery, or despair. And in our age, when the battles we fight are not with shields and spears, but with stress, betrayal, distraction, and relentless uncertainty, this same blueprint can anchor you in resilience, clarity, and control. If you've ever asked yourself why anger seizes you, why fear stops you, why uncertainty consumes you, then this message is for you. Because the wisdom of the Stoics is not about surviving life, it is about mastering it. The Stoic blueprint is not a relic of the past, it is a weapon for today. And once you hold it, the storms no longer decide who you are. You do. Marcus Aurelius did not rule from comfort. His reign was scarred by endless wars at the empire's borders, betrayal within his senate, and the plague that tore through Rome and claimed thousands each day. Picture him writing by the dim light of an oil lamp, not as a marble statue of perfection, but as a weary man surrounded by chaos. His pen was his shield, his meditations a private battlefield where he reminded himself of what no army could touch: his mind. Epictetus, centuries earlier, knew hardship in its rawest form. Born into slavery, his body was commanded by another, his choices stripped away. Yet he declared that no master could chain his will. "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus himself has power over my mind." Out of the ashes of powerlessness, he forged the very essence of freedom, control over the self. Stoicism, then, is not philosophy for the privileged. It was born in chains, tested in war, and proven in suffering. Now step into your own world. Your battlefield looks different, but it is no less real. You face betrayal when someone you trust turns their back. You face silent wars when anxiety gnaws at your peace and distraction steals your focus. You face modern plagues when burnout spreads in workplaces and endless noise devours your clarity. You may not wield a sword, but every day you fight battles of the mind, battles that leave scars no one can see. This is why the wisdom of warriors and emperors still matters, because what they endured is the same in essence: uncertainty, fear, loss, betrayal, the struggle for control. They learned that pain cannot be erased, but it can be mastered. They learned that chaos outside is powerless against calm within. And if men crushed under the weight of empires and slavery could build unshakable minds, what excuse do we have in an age of convenience? The blueprint they carried is not locked in dusty scrolls. It is alive, waiting to be used in the modern storm. And if you choose to walk their path, you will discover that your own struggles, though different in form, can be met with the same strength that carried warriors into battle and kept emperors standing in the fire. To grasp the true essence of Stoicism, you must see it not as scattered advice or fragments of quotes, but as a structure, a living architecture of resilience. Imagine building a fortress within, one that cannot be toppled no matter how violent the storm. The Stoic blueprint is that fortress, with each part designed to protect you where you are most vulnerable. The foundation is perception. Everything begins with how you choose to see the world. The same event can shatter one person and sharpen another. The Stoics taught that reality itself is not what destroys us, it is our interpretation of it. If you train yourself to see challenges as teachers, setbacks as opportunities for discipline, and pain as proof of your endurance, then your foundation will hold even when others collapse. Without this foundation, every difficulty becomes quicksand. With it, every hardship becomes solid ground. The walls are discipline in action. A fortress without strong walls is only an illusion of safety. In the same way, philosophy without practice is empty talk. The Stoics demanded daily discipline, choosing courage when fear rises, honesty when lies offer escape, effort when laziness tempts. These walls are not built overnight, but brick by brick with every small decision. Each act of self-control, each choice of virtue over vice, stacks another stone in your defenses. The roof is acceptance of fate. Even the strongest foundation and highest walls cannot stop the storm from coming. What protects you then is your ability to accept what cannot be controlled. The Stoics called it amor fati, the love of fate. To embrace the reality given, not with despair, but with dignity. This acceptance is not weakness, it is shelter. It keeps you from wasting your strength raging against the immovable. Fate is not your enemy, it is the training ground of your strength. Running through it all is the blueprint line, the guiding principle of reason and virtue. A fortress without a plan crumbles under its own weight. In the same way, your life must align with something greater than impulse or desire. Wisdom, courage, justice, and self-mastery are the lines that give shape to the fortress of the mind. They ensure that resilience is not just stubborn survival, but purposeful strength. This is the Stoic core: perception as foundation, discipline as walls, acceptance as roof, virtue as the blueprint line. It is not abstract. It is not distant. It is the architecture of an unshakable mind, proven on battlefields and thrones, and available to you here and now. A warrior knows the truth that most of us spend our lives avoiding. Comfort breeds fragility, but hardship forges strength. On the battlefield, hesitation can kill, panic can shatter ranks, and fear can turn victory into defeat. For this reason, Stoicism became the hidden ally of soldiers, generals, and fighters across centuries. It was not meant for idle speculation. It was a weapon of survival. The Stoic warrior trained his body, but more importantly, he trained his mind. He embraced voluntary discomfort, stepping into hardship on purpose to build armor against life's blows. Soldiers slept in the cold, walked hungry, carried weights far beyond what seemed necessary. The purpose was not punishment, it was liberation. If you can endure suffering by choice, you strip real suffering of its power. When the storm comes, you are already familiar with the rain. Another tool was visualization, but not in the way modern self-help distorts it. They did not imagine easy victories or picture applause. They imagined the worst, the wound, the betrayal, the loss. To rehearse disaster is to rob it of surprise. When the blade comes, when the plan fails, when life cuts deep, the Stoic does not crumble. He has already faced it in the mind and accepted its weight. Fear cannot live where acceptance has already entered. And above all, warriors meditated on death, not morbidly, but with purpose. Death is the final enemy, yet also the greatest teacher. The soldier who remembers his mortality fights without hesitation. The worker who remembers his mortality spends time on what matters. The parent who remembers mortality chooses presence over distraction. To fear death is to waste life. To accept it is to be sharpened by it. You may never march into battle, but your struggles are no less demanding. The meeting where your career feels at stake, the betrayal that tempts you to despair, the uncertainty that gnaws at your courage. The practices of the Stoic warrior are as relevant in the office, the home, or the streets as they were on the battlefield. Embrace discomfort before it finds you. Visualize hardship so it cannot surprise you. Keep death close so that life remains urgent. This is the warrior's edge. It is not about violence, it is about mastery. A warrior of the mind is untouchable, not because he avoids the storm, but because he walks into it prepared. And when he does, he discovers what others cannot. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward regardless. Power does not free a man, it tests him. To sit on a throne is not to live in ease, but to be crushed by responsibility. Marcus Aurelius carried this burden more heavily than most. His reign was marked not by peace, but by plague, betrayal, and war, stretching across the empire's borders. Imagine him at his desk, candlelight flickering, reports of rebellion on the table, letters of death piling high. He was emperor of the greatest power on earth, yet his true battle was not with enemies outside. It was with corruption, ego, and despair inside. This is the emperor's burden, to hold power without being consumed by it. A tyrant rules by impulse, driven by greed and fear of loss. A Stoic ruler must govern himself before he can govern others. Marcus wrote constant reminders to stay humble, to avoid being hardened by cruelty, to serve rather than dominate. His private writings were not for history but for survival. He was not trying to inspire others. He was trying to keep his own mind intact under the crushing weight of empire. And here lies the lesson. You may not wear a crown, but leadership surrounds you. Leadership is the parent making choices that shape a child's future. It is the worker holding a team together when stress pulls it apart. It is the individual guiding their own life when no one else will. Leadership is not about titles. It is about responsibility, and responsibility is always heavy. The Stoic path of leadership demands more than strategy. It demands character, to speak the truth when lies are easier, to stand calm when panic spreads, to make decisions not for ego but for the greater good. A leader without philosophy becomes a tyrant to others and a slave to himself. But a leader who embraces Stoicism becomes something rare, steady in chaos, humble in power, and incorruptible in duty. The emperor's burden is not simply the throne, it is the weight of knowing that every action ripples outward, affecting lives unseen. To carry that weight with wisdom and restraint is to lead like Marcus Aurelius, strong but not arrogant, firm but not cruel, human but not broken. And in your own life, no matter how small your kingdom may seem, the same choice is yours. To rule yourself first, so that everything you touch is ruled with strength and dignity. There is a danger in Stoicism, not in its truth, but in its misunderstanding. Many today carry illusions that weaken rather than strengthen them. To walk the Stoic path without exposing these traps is to build a fortress on sand. It looks strong, but it crumbles the moment life tests it. The first illusion is numbness. Some believe Stoicism demands the elimination of all emotion, a cold indifference that makes them untouchable. But this is not mastery, it is avoidance. The Stoics never denied emotion, they sought to rule it. Anger, fear, joy, and grief are part of being human. The goal is not to erase them, but to ensure they do not dictate your choices. Numbness is cowardice, mastery is courage. The second illusion is silence mistaken for wisdom. There are moments when restraint is noble, when keeping your words measured protects both yourself and others. But silence can also be a disguise for fear. Seneca warned against retreating into endless thought while avoiding action. To refuse to speak truth when it is needed, to avoid conflict when justice demands courage, is not Stoicism. It is surrender. True wisdom discerns when to be still and when to stand up. The third illusion is turning Stoicism into decoration. Quotes from Marcus Aurelius flood social media, printed on walls and coffee mugs. But philosophy is not meant to be displayed. It is meant to be lived. To recite Epictetus while living in weakness is like owning a sword you never draw. It looks sharp, but it protects no one. The value of Stoicism is not in words remembered, but in discipline practiced. And the fourth illusion is apathy disguised as acceptance. Too many twist Stoicism into an excuse to disengage from life, to shrug at injustice, to refuse responsibility with the phrase, "It doesn't matter." But Stoicism calls for the opposite, to embrace responsibility with courage, to meet duty with strength, to act in service of the greater good. Acceptance of fate is not surrender, it is preparation. Apathy is decay, but action aligned with virtue is resilience. Breaking these illusions is essential, because a false Stoicism will fail you when storms rise. You will either retreat into numbness, hide in silence, posture with empty quotes, or decay in apathy. But if you strip away these traps, what remains is the real thing. Philosophy lived in fire, resilient enough for emperors, warriors, and anyone who dares to put it into practice today. Philosophy without practice is dead weight. The Stoics knew this better than anyone, which is why they forged daily rituals to transform wisdom into resilience. These were not grand ceremonies, but small acts repeated with discipline, the kind that shaped warriors and emperors into men no storm could break. The first ritual was the morning fortification. Marcus Aurelius began his day by preparing his mind for the world ahead. Today you will meet the arrogant, the ungrateful, the deceitful, the envious. He was not complaining, he was arming himself. By rehearsing hardship before it appeared, he made sure no insult, betrayal, or disappointment could catch him off guard. You can do the same. Before stepping into your day, remind yourself of what awaits: obstacles, distractions, pressure. Meet them in your mind first, and they lose their power to surprise you. The second ritual was the evening audit. Seneca wrote that every night one should call themselves to account. What weakness did I resist? What strength did I show? Where did I falter? This was not self-condemnation but training, turning each day into a lesson. Without reflection, mistakes repeat themselves. With reflection, even failure becomes progress. The evening audit transforms your day from something you simply endured into something you learned from. The third ritual was voluntary adversity. Epictetus taught his students to practice discomfort, to taste poverty in small doses, eat plain food, wear simple clothes, sleep on the floor. Why? Because luxury makes us fragile. If you only know comfort, life will break you the moment it takes that comfort away. But if you can endure hunger when you choose, hunger by chance cannot defeat you. If you can live with little by choice, abundance no longer enslaves you. In the modern world, this might mean fasting, taking cold showers, working without distractions, or embracing silence. Discomfort becomes training, and training becomes freedom. These rituals are not history lessons, they are daily weapons forged for today. A warrior once used them before battle. An emperor once used them before judgment. You can use them before a meeting, before a challenge, before stepping into the chaos of your own life. The unshakable mind is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in repetition, morning after morning, night after night, choice after choice. These small rituals stack like stones until they form a fortress no storm can topple. Practice them, and you will discover what the Stoics knew all along. Resilience is not a gift, it is a habit. The greatest mistake people make with Stoicism is treating it as thought instead of practice. Philosophy was never meant to be an escape into endless reflection. It was meant to be a tool for living, tested in the marketplace, the court, the battlefield, and the home. The Stoics did not sit idle, lost in theory, they acted. And their reminder to us is simple. Philosophy that does not guide your choices is not philosophy at all. Epictetus warned his students not to recite his teachings like parrots, but to embody them. Wisdom without application, he said, is like a man who memorizes medical advice, yet never heals a wound. Knowledge without action is sterile. The Stoics despised the image of philosophers who debated endlessly, but collapsed at the first sign of hardship. Their question was not, "What do you know?" but, "How do you live?" Consider Marcus Aurelius. His meditations were private notes, not public speeches. He wrote to himself because he knew philosophy must be lived in each decision. When he was betrayed, he chose mercy over vengeance. When the plague ravaged Rome, he stayed with his people instead of fleeing. When war threatened the empire, he faced it, leading from the front. Each act was philosophy in motion. His writings were not meant to impress anyone. They were reminders to act with integrity when the world demanded compromise. Now look at your own life. Do you quote Stoic lines while snapping in anger at the smallest insult? Do you speak of calm while drowning in distraction? Do you admire resilience while avoiding discomfort? These contradictions reveal a dangerous truth. Many admire Stoicism, but few live it. True Stoicism begins when your actions reflect your principles under pressure. Philosophy in motion is waking each day and choosing reason over impulse. It is restraining anger when insulted. It is working with discipline when comfort tempts. It is stepping into fear when safety whispers. These are not theories. They are choices, made again and again. The unshakable mind is not built by what you know, but by what you do. The battlefield of life does not care about your quotes or your books. It tests your decisions. And the one who acts with Stoic discipline proves their philosophy with every step. Stoicism without action is a shadow. Stoicism in motion is unbreakable strength. The fiercest enemies you will ever face are not out in the world. They are inside you. Armies may attack your walls, storms may tear at your roof, but what destroys most people is not what comes from outside, it is what rises within. The Stoics named these enemies clearly: ego, fear, and desire. Conquer them, and no one can conquer you. Ego is the liar that whispers you are greater than you are. It blinds you with pride, making you deaf to correction and foolish in your choices. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, constantly reminded himself to stay humble, writing that he was a man like any other, destined to die. If the ruler of the known world needed humility, how much more do we? Ego convinces you that victory is permanent, that respect is owed to you, that the universe revolves around your desires. But the Stoic knows the truth. Ego is weakness dressed as strength. To master ego is to remember that every triumph is temporary, every honor fragile, every life fleeting. Fear is the shadow that paralyzes before action. It magnifies danger and multiplies suffering. Epictetus taught that most suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our fear of them. Fear locks you in hesitation, robs you of courage, and chains you to inaction. The Stoic confronts fear by facing it, stripping it of mystery. You rehearse the worst so it cannot surprise you. You accept mortality so that life becomes urgent instead of fragile. To master fear is to unlock freedom. Desire is the endless hunger that convinces you happiness lies in what you don't yet have. Seneca warned that no man is poor who is content with what he has, but no man is rich if he is enslaved by desire. The Stoics sees through this trap. They know that pleasure fades, possessions decay, and fame vanishes. Desire promises fulfillment, but delivers emptiness. Mastering desire means learning the art of sufficiency, choosing to need less, and in needing less, becoming untouchable. Ego blinds, fear paralyzes, desire enslaves. Together, they form the unholy trinity that keeps most people weak. But the Stoic who confronts these enemies within discovers something extraordinary. When ego is humbled, clarity arrives. When fear is faced, courage awakens. When desire is mastered, freedom begins. The greatest victory you can ever win is not over the world, but over yourself. One of the most misunderstood practices of the Stoics is their deliberate meditation on hardship. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. At first glance, it sounds grim. Why imagine loss before it arrives? Why rehearse betrayal, pain, or death in the mind? But to the Stoics, this was not an exercise in pessimism. It was the art of inoculation. A soldier does not wait for battle to learn how to fight. He trains before the enemy appears. In the same way, the Stoic does not wait for disaster to prepare his mind. He visualizes it beforehand, stripping it of its power to shock. Seneca wrote that fortune falls most heavily on those who never expected it. To expect hardship is to disarm it. To imagine the worst is to ensure it does not crush you when it comes. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would meet with arrogance, selfishness, and betrayal. Epictetus urged his students to picture loss: a friend dying, possessions stolen, health fading. Why? Because when life inevitably delivered such blows, the Stoic had already faced them. He could meet them with calm, not collapse. This practice is desperately needed today. Modern life conditions us to expect comfort, stability, and control. We are shocked when pain arrives, furious when things fall apart, crushed when life fails to match our plans. But pain is the rule, not the exception. If you prepare for it daily, you strip away its sting. Try this. Before a crucial meeting, imagine rejection. Before travel, imagine delay. Before a conversation, imagine insult. Not to dwell in negativity, but to say, even if this happens, I remain steady. This mindset transforms fear into readiness. It builds a mind storm-proof, unshaken when fate delivers its inevitable blows. Premeditatio malorum is not about expecting misery. It is about refusing to be ruled by surprise. The man who has rehearsed hardship greets it with composure. The woman who has pictured lost treasures what she has more deeply. In practicing this, you turn fear into preparation, and preparation into power. The Stoics warned that endless desire is slavery. To chase what you do not have is to live in chains, pulled by every promise of more. The antidote is gratitude, not the shallow kind that simply lists blessings, but a disciplined practice of seeing sufficiency in every moment. Gratitude for the Stoics was not sentimental. It was strategic. Seneca wrote that no man is poor who has enough, but no man is rich if he is enslaved by wanting more. This insight dismantles one of the greatest illusions of our age, the belief that happiness lies in the next purchase, the next achievement, the next validation. Desire always moves the finish line, keeping contentment forever out of reach. Gratitude fixes the line exactly where you stand. It reminds you that what you have now others pray for, that life, fragile and fleeting, is itself abundance. Marcus Aurelius practiced this discipline daily. In his meditations, he thanked the universe for the chance to wake, to breathe, to act, to live another day. He did not wait for luxury to feel fortunate. He understood that to wake each morning already expecting gratitude is to walk armored against envy, jealousy, and greed. In our world, comparison is poison. Social media feeds train us to measure ourselves against curated illusions. Gratitude breaks this trap. When you practice it, envy loses its grip, greed loses its pull, and peace takes root. Gratitude is rebellion against a culture of scarcity. It turns your mind from what is missing to what is already overflowing. But gratitude is not passive. It does not mean accepting less effort or excusing mediocrity. It means building from a place of fullness instead of emptiness. When you feel you already have enough, every gain becomes a gift rather than a demand. You act not out of desperation, but out of strength. Gratitude disciplines desire, and in disciplining desire it frees you. To wake each morning with thanks is to declare independence from the slavery of more. This is why the Stoics saw gratitude not as luxury, but as necessity. It is the quiet force that makes the unshakable mind untouchable by envy, immune to greed, and at peace, even in scarcity. There is one truth the Stoics repeated more than any other: remember you will die. Memento Mori, the meditation on mortality, was not meant to depress but to awaken. Death, they said, is not the enemy, it is the teacher, and if you learn from it, every moment of your life becomes sharper, clearer, and more urgent. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This was not morbid obsession. It was clarity. Knowing time is short strips away the trivial. It forces you to ask, is this worth my hours, my energy, my life? Most people live as though time is infinite, wasting days on anger, gossip, distraction. But the Stoic, remembering death, chooses differently. Seneca wrote that we are not given a short life, but we make it short by wasting it. He compared time to wealth. Many guard their possessions but squander their hours. Yet time is the only currency you can never earn back. Every day spent in complaint, in delay and meaningless pursuit is a day stolen from your limited account. Gratitude and urgency grow when you realize that death is not in the distance. It walks beside you always. Memento Mori transforms procrastination into action. It gives courage because when you accept death, fear loses its teeth. What can criticism do to you if death is inevitable? What is failure but a small stumble on the road toward the same end we all face? Remembering mortality dissolves pettiness, magnifies purpose, and sharpens discipline. In the modern world, where distraction numbs and endless scrolling devours hours, Memento Mori is more vital than ever. Each notification steals a slice of your life. Each wasted day vanishes into the graveyard of time. To live as if you are eternal is the greatest illusion. To live as if you are mortal is the greatest strength. The Stoic does not fear death. He fears wasting life, and by meditating on the end, he ensures the middle burns brighter. This is the art of Memento Mori, not to dwell on death, but to live fully, fiercely, and purposefully while you can. Stoicism is often mistaken for retreat, as if the Stoic should stand apart from the world, untouched and unmoved. But the true Stoic does not isolate. He engages. He walks into the marketplace, the courtroom, the home, and the battlefield with the same calm spirit he trains in private. Strength for the Stoic is never selfish. It is meant to serve. Marcus Aurelius carried this principle as emperor. His meditations are filled with reminders that he existed for others, that leadership was service, and that every human being was bound together in the same web of fate. He saw himself not as above his people, but as part of them. To govern wisely meant to embody patience, humility, and compassion, even when surrounded by corruption and betrayal. His philosophy was never for himself alone, it was for Rome. Epictetus, once a slave, taught the same truth. Philosophy was not about escape from society, but about living rightly within it. If hardship comes from other people, then other people are your training ground. If injustice surrounds you, then justice must be your weapon. To live apart is easy. To live among others without losing your strength and without hardening your heart, that is the real test. In modern life, society is our constant storm. In traffic, in politics, in work, in family, we face the same challenge. Can we remain steady without becoming indifferent? Can we show compassion without being consumed? Stoicism gives us the answer. By controlling what is ours, the mind, the response, the choice, we stay grounded. And by remembering that others act from ignorance, pain, or fear, we replace bitterness with understanding. This does not mean weakness. Compassion does not excuse corruption. Patience does not ignore injustice. But the Stoic responds with clarity instead of rage, with reason instead of blind reaction. The world does not need more people adding noise to chaos. It needs people who can stand inside it with strength and guide others to calmer ground. To be Stoic in society is to embody balance, unyielding in principle yet open in heart. It is to be strong enough not to be broken by others and wise enough not to break them in return. The unshakable mind is not meant for solitude. It is meant to shape the world through example. The world you live in is not Rome, yet its storms are no less relentless. Instead of armies at the gates, you face deadlines that suffocate, a flood of notifications that never stops, relationships tested by betrayal, economies that rise and fall without warning. The enemies are invisible, but the assault is constant. And here is where the Stoic blueprint becomes your armor, proven in the past, alive for today. Consider the noise of modern life. Every ping, every headline, every false urgency drags your mind in 100 directions. You wake already exhausted, your clarity stolen before the day begins. The Stoic solution? Reclaim perception. Decide what deserves your attention and dismiss the rest as noise. Marcus Aurelius did this by reminding himself that most things are opinions, not facts. You can do the same. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you reinforce the fortress of your mind. Then comes uncertainty. In the modern world, careers collapse, markets shift, health falters without warning. The illusion of control shatters daily. The Stoic response is acceptance, not passive surrender, but the strength to save energy for what can be shaped. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events, but from the stories we tell about them. Accept what you cannot control, and direct your force toward what you can. In this you stop wasting strength fighting the immovable and start thriving in the possible. And what about setbacks? The betrayals, failures, humiliations that shake identity itself. Here the warrior's edge returns. Prepare for discomfort before it comes. Step willingly into small adversities so that great adversities cannot break you. A cold shower, a moment of silence, a fast, a rejection embraced, each is training. Each builds mental muscle that will not atrophy when the storm grows violent. To live this way is to become storm-proof. The unshakable mind does not wish away hardship. It welcomes it as proof of strength. It does not collapse under criticism. It does not lose itself in distraction. It does not cling to what it cannot keep. Instead, it stands tall, not because the storm is weaker, but because the fortress within is stronger. This is the modern application of Stoicism. It is not a philosophy of yesterday. It is the discipline of today. And when practiced, it turns ordinary people into leaders, fragile minds into fortresses, and chaotic lives into ordered strength. The storm will come. But with this blueprint, you will not only endure it, you will master it. The Stoics did not leave us with easy comfort. They left us with a challenge, a question that echoes across centuries. Are you the master of your mind or its slave? This question is not philosophy for scholars. It is the dividing line between those who live free and those who remain chained. Marcus Aurelius asked it as he faced plague and war. Epictetus asked it while bound by slavery. Seneca asked it while writing letters on the eve of death. Their lives prove the same truth. The storms of fate cannot be controlled, but the response always can. And in that choice, we discover whether we are rulers of ourselves or prisoners of impulse. Now the question is passed to you. When anger rises, who rules, you or the anger? When fear grips you, who leads, you or the fear? When betrayal strikes, when uncertainty overwhelms, when time slips through your hands, do you stand steady or do you crumble? The blueprint has been handed down. The fortress of the mind has been mapped, but only you can decide whether to build it. This is not about admiration. It is about application. The unshakable mind is not for those who merely watch and nod. It is for those who practice daily in silence and in action. It is for those who choose discipline over distraction, courage over fear, humility over ego, gratitude over greed. So here is the timeless challenge. Live as if your mind is yours to command. Build the foundation of perception, the walls of discipline, the roof of acceptance, and guide it all with virtue. Do this, and you will walk into storms untouchable, lead without corruption, and endure without despair. The emperors are gone. The warriors are gone. But the question remains waiting for your answer. Are you the master of your mind or its slave? If you seek to walk this path of resilience, subscribe, because the Stoic blueprint is only beginning to unfold. And the next step, yours or not, will decide everything.